independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
It is very likely that we will progress towards the steps towards normalization as we get to the end of this 30 days. And I think that's going to be a good time to look and see how quickly can we make that move to try and normalize. But hopefully, by the time we get to the summer, we will have taken many steps in that direction.
The summer. Will there be a summer, right? Of course there's going to be a summer. My goodness me. But what does summer look like? What does summer 2020 in the midst of a pandemic look like? Kids are already out of school. Good luck trying to get them to do anything. Nobody's going to have money for vacations, so it's lots of staycations and panic. And, of course, the economy is on top of that, got to bail out the airlines, right?
The airline business has been hit very hard, as everybody knows, and we are going to be in a position to do a lot to help them so that they keep their employees and they save their businesses. I think it's going to be a very acceptable package. It's a very big package and a very acceptable package. It'll be good for our country, good for the airlines, good for a lot of people.
They need like $50 billion to bail themselves out. But how long does that last, too? That's the other question. Like a lot of questions that business owners have, how long does this last? You give us this to bail us out, and the airlines haven't done anything wrong here, right? This wasn't something that they got themselves into a mess. They were doing their business. They were doing really good. Everything seemed to be fine. Then this thing pops up. The next thing you know, they had to change their business model to the point where nobody's flying. And they've scaled down. They're more about packages, which, for those of you not keeping score, that's where they make a ton of their money. It's not what's above, right, inside the fuselage. It's below where they make a ton of their money. But they're not flying things back and forth. It's a very weird world. They have no passengers. It's not like the banking industry that got themselves into a mess. The airlines have done nothing. And they followed the rules. They've shut down as much as possible. They're not flying as much. You can get some great deals, by the way. If you're willing to fly, you can get some hella deals at this moment in time. But we got to bail them out. But that question is, how long? Right? What's $50 billion get you? So you bail them out, and then at the end of it, what is it? And when is the end? Are you going to have to bail them out again because travel's going to be halted for several months, and you got just enough money to get you through 3, but you need 5 months? It's interesting. Lots of bailouts. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. And then for the rest of us, we're thinking to ourselves, when is this thing going to get going? That's what people want to know. I've seen report after report, poll after poll about the economy. When is it going to get rolling? How soon can we get back to work? And what does that even look like?
But I think our country, from an economic standpoint, will end up being stronger than ever. We have tremendous stimulus. We have tremendous stimulus plans. We have things in the works that are going to really, I think, fire the country. I think that what's going to happen is we're going to have a big bounce rather than a small bounce.
I think we'll have a bounce, but I don't think it's big as people think. Well, at least, look, the president is there to be optimistic. Again, this president's more Tony Robbins than the last president. He wants that. He's rah-rah. He's Tony Robbins. You can do it. You can be anything. This is going to be amazing. It's going to be a huge bounce. We will come back. Don't get me wrong. We're coming back, and we will be stronger for it. But it is not going to take the flip of a switch and the, hey, everything's open for us to come back. It is going to take bits and pieces, dribs and drabs to get us back to where we were. And I do believe we will come back stronger, but it's not overnight.
We will be back. Honestly, I think our country is going to be back from an economic standpoint. Again, you can never replace the people that were lost, and to their families, certainly you can never do a thing like that. But we will have succeeded in many ways, hopefully keeping the number way below our minimum numbers. And also from an economic standpoint, I think we're going to open up strong. I think we're going to open up very successfully. And I'd like to say even more successfully than before.
Say it. Mnuchin's talking about opening up in the middle of May. What does opening up look like? What do we have to do to even open this thing up? We're looking around the world saying, okay, what's this country going to do? How are they starting to open up? Places like Germany, which biggest economy in Europe, pretty big population, didn't really suffer any deaths. And although they did have quite a few people compared to some other nations infected, how are they opening up? Because they'll probably be the first ones in Europe that really open up. Places like Italy, it's kind of like New York. It's going to be a while.
This is a terrible, terrible pandemic, and it moves incredibly quickly. And that's why we have to use every single moment during this time that we're sheltering in place to get ready for the next phase, where we need to box the virus in. We need to box COVID. We need to do that with 4 key measures: testing widely, isolating effectively, finding contacts, and quarantining the contacts. If we do those 4 things, we can box the virus in and be able to steadily, gradually go back to a new normal.
What's a new normal? That's Dr. Tom Frieden, former CDC head. Here's the thing. We listened to that Newt guy yesterday, as well as several other scientists saying boxing it in only happens when you have a certain amount of herd immunity. It's not going anywhere. And that's part of the issue that we're going to have with the economy is, are we going to, because I think once we go, we've got to go. I don't know what it looks like, but once we go, it can't be, we start, we get into it a little bit, then we stop and everybody goes back in. Then we start and we go back in, and then, oh, here comes some more. We can't have that. It's just, that's not something that is going to be successful. So to box it in, unless we have a vaccine or a proven treatment where we could say, you know what, everybody live your life, and if you get it, this is what you do, and 99.9% of people will survive, and we'll all move on with their life. Unless we have that or a true vaccine, this thing, us staying inside and quarantining and then slowly moving back out there, the monster's still there. So how do we go about sorting that out? And that's a fair question. And I think more and more people are starting to ask the question of how do we move from point A to point B without turning back and running back to A? Because that's my big fear when it comes to the economy. Is we start, we slowly roll out, and it's a lot of false starts and then come back, and false starts and come back. And next thing you know, it's September and they're talking about it being seasonal, and it starts to really come back again in earnest. And oh my goodness. And here we are, right, running around like a dog chasing our tail. If we're going to do something, we're going to have to do that. And I think the powers that be, people at the CDC, Fauci, Dr. Birx, are being told by Mnuchin and Trump, I get what you guys are trying to do. This is what we're trying to do. When we do this, right, when you say, all right, we're going to have to start getting out there, know that that's the way it's going to work. We're not going to go, okay, guys, you got to go back in. And that's my fear for the economy, is to start-stop. Not just for us, but globally. How does Italy or Spain or France get back out there and start doing things? You watch what happens. The rise of Germany in Europe is going to be huge because of the way they've handled this pandemic, and that they're going to be active and back out there long before anybody else. They'll have first mover advantage, and they're already the most powerful nation there. Not that I think they're going to take over the world or try to start a world war, although they've tried that before. I don't know if you guys have heard. But they're going to have full first mover advantage to dominate everything because they'll be back out there early. Well, everybody else, I think, will play the start. You know, what? No, yeah, 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. By the way, happy Good Friday. I am fasting today, right? I am fasting. We had Boyd Mattson on yesterday, and I've decided I'm going to be fasting for the day for, good juju. I ate last night, kind of pigged out a little bit, went probably above and beyond. Like I would have got a medal, like, hey, you did really good. But I'm not going to eat again until 8 o'clock tonight. So I'm fasting, good juju for the world that we can get through this thing, that people are healthy and safe. So I said, you know what? I'm giving up. I'm still having my tea, still having a little iced tea, but I'm going to go all day without eating. We'll see how that goes. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show, Twitter. Car Shield, saving you money. They've got plans starting as low as $99 a month. Affordable protection plans. Covering everything. Your car's modern, it's new, it's cool, you got some electronics in it, but you don't have a warranty. Guess what? They have got a plan for you. Maybe your car's a little older, you worry more about the transmission and the engine itself, but you really like your car and you don't want another payment. They've got plans for you as well. All you have to do is call 800-CAR-6000, mention code Benson, you save 10%, and explain exactly what you're looking for, right? So whether you're worried about your transmission, the engine, your touchscreen display, the sensors inside of all of electronics, whatever it is that you're most worried about, or maybe you just want full blanket coverage on the plans for everything. With those plans, you get 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car for free while your car's in the shop with Car Shield, and the shop is the shop that you choose. They get them paid directly. You pay a small deductible. Again, 800-CAR-6000. Mention code Benson. Plans start as low as $99 a month. Or go to carshield.com, carshield.com. Use code Benson to save 10%. A deductible may apply. Chad Benson Show.
Set Chad straight. Text the show, 323-538-2423. That's 323-538-CHAD. Someone has to do it. Might as well be you. The Chad Benson Show.
We think we're on what they call the plateau as opposed to the apex.
Yeah, Cuomo. They think, and horribly, but Easter Sunday could be the worst day. And then for New York, it'll start to come down, and that's for deaths. So the deaths are up, but there's also good news outside of that.
The death toll is going up, and that's what's most painful. The good news, if you will, is this plateau, this peaking of the number of new cases.
So new cases coming down, deaths are up. Eventually, the deaths will start to come down, and once you get 3 or 4 days in a row where they're both coming down, then you can start to think to yourself, maybe we've got onto the other side of this. And while it may be a slow ride down, it'll at least be coming down. And everybody's looking at New York. I mean, you take away the New York numbers. You take away really that eastern seaboard area. America looks totally different numbers-wise. But New York has been hit so hard. It is crazy how bad that they've been hit. You look at it and you're like, my God. As of now, we have about 468,000 cases. New York has 162,000 of those. New Jersey has 51,000. Those two states almost account for half. California, it's got 20,000, most populous states, only got 559 deaths. I say only. But the reality is when you think of some place like California, the population, the size, but we talk about this, they build out, not up. They're a car culture. They're not a mass transit culture. What's that mean? Well, in New York, people walk everywhere. Side by side, you just have to look at the streets filled with people. Then they go and they get on the subway and they get in elevators. I was telling producer Anthony, in the last year, I think I've been on an elevator once. And before that, it's probably been 2 or 3 years. If you live in New York, you're probably almost on an elevator all the time. Every day, you're on an elevator, once, twice. And they say that's one of those places. You're taking mass transit. We don't do that in California. I'm out here in Arizona. We don't do that. We're a car culture as well. And that plays a lot into it. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at me and text the program as well. Talk about pulling. Today's Good Friday. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. This is interesting, though. In Ohio, Central Ohio, Cleveland Clinic, the hospital system's totally struggling. They need to find proper protective gear and face masks for its employees, plus the visitors. They ask a manufacturer there, hey, can you help out? He says, I could, but somebody else could do it more. John Miller went to Abe Troyer, who is Amish, and says, hey, can you guys help out with this? So they made a frolic. What's a frolic? It means, in colloquial terms, to throw everybody at it. So they started sewing and doing things. On top of that, they're making 100,000 masks a day and visors, face shields. It's crazy. Everybody's doing their part. And that's the point. Everybody's doing their part. And we need to do that. Nothing wrong with that. I know people are frustrated. A lot of people at home, that cabin fever is real. It is very real. People are doing their part. Even the Amish, who kind of shun the outside world, let's be real, are throwing it out there. And they've got testing there, too, for the Amish. They want to drive by in your buggy and you can get tested. But it shows on a day like today that, everybody's doing their part. All of us. I try to help out as much as possible. I've got a little cafe that I go to every single day. Even if I'm not hungry, I'll buy food for people inside of the building because they're hurting. Doesn't matter what we can do. If we can just do one or two little things to help somebody else, especially if we're in a position to do it. And if you don't have the money or you're struggling to, maybe even just a knock on the door or a call next door and social distance and ask if somebody's elderly, do you need something? Can I help you with something? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. It's the Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Our numbers are headed in the right direction. We still have to be vigilant, but while we save lives, we've also got to get started saving livelihoods. We got to get this economy back open.
That's our buddy. Love that guy. You know who he is. John Kennedy says some crazy stuff, but he's right. People are asking questions about when can we jumpstart this thing. And that's, for a lot of people, and it sounds awful and, it's horrible, the economy before people. It's not the economy before people, but understand that the destruction of an economy will lead to a massive amount of poverty and death as well. So how do you walk a fine line of trying to get people back to work and at the same time trying to save as many as possible, realizing that one may put people in jeopardy in one way and the other one may put people in lives in jeopardy in another way? We're almost at 17 million unemployed in 3 weeks. 17 million. I talked to a business owner yesterday, restaurant owner, who has no idea when they're going to open. No idea. He's like, I'm looking at these SBA loans, and I'm thinking to myself, you want me to take out a loan that will cover 2 months of employee salaries. So I'm going to pay employees to not be at work or doing anything and keep enough money to keep the lights on and the landlord happy and do that. And then after 2 months, I'm SOL and I may still have to close down. It's a tough thing if you're a business. It is. It's a very, very tough thing. What do you do? I don't know. One thing I do know is a lot of people are having their hours cut. By the way, if your hours are cut because of the coronavirus, not because you're a crappy employee, but your hours are cut. So let's say, you're 40 hours a week and they say, look, we can keep you for 20 hours. That's what we can pay you for. You can apply for unemployment to make up the difference of your lost wages. My mother's a company yesterday. They closed down. They said this is stupid. They're an essential part where they'll keep a skeleton crew to go out and put emergency stuff for glass and casings and things like so. If somebody breaks into like a 7-Eleven and the wall, the glass is shattered, her company will go out and repair that. But they're not getting any kind of work. They're only allowed to do certain essential things. So they looked at the SBA thing and they said, it's huge. It wasn't as easy and as simple as they made it out to look. And then you get put on some sort of waiting list and you're waiting to hear. So they just decided to keep a small skeleton crew and lay everybody off. You got to sit there and say what's best. At some point in time, you sit there and you say to yourself in your mind, what's best for me and my family? What looks best for me and my family? Well, surviving. Okay. Surviving, great. Fantastic. We all want to survive. But what is going to put food on the table? That's a very real question that people are starting to have. I think a lot of people thought this would be a 2-week thing, and then they realized, okay, it's going to be a little bit longer. And then they're looking and saying, we're already on the 10th of April, and we may revisit this come end of this month. But I think we all realize at the end of this month, we're probably still going to have a mess. So what do? People are getting frustrated. You knew it would happen. And not only that, there's a psychological question that goes along with people sitting at home, not only having cabin fever, but also starting to feel like everything's out of control. And they feel down because they're not contributing.
Before the well-intentioned arugula and tofu crowd gets all lubed up, I'm not talking about opening it Monday, but we've got to get this economy open. Government shut it down. We got some bad unemployment numbers. This economy has been chewed up, spit out, and stepped on. It looks like a scene from Mad Max.
Yeah, it does. It has a chance to. So let's break down the unemployment numbers. Just a quick one. Because we're no longer in a recession. All right, the recession is a dream. We're in a depression. So let's break it down. You got to go back to the 20s, the highest rate ever, 1929. You go back there and you see 24.9% unemployment. Right, it started to tick up from there, slowly but surely. The market crash, unemployment rate, 1929, 3.2, 8.7, 1930, 15.9, 31, 23.6, 32, and then the highest mark, 24.9. But when we talk about a depression, think about this for a second. 34, still 21%, 35, 20%, 36, 16%, 14% and 31, ticks up to 19% and 38, and then The draft in 1941 finally gets under 10%. 42, 4.7. 1.9% in 43. And then we stayed steady in the 3s, 5s, 6. Then you get to the 70s, and we're back up at 7.2%, 8.2%, 82, 10.8%, which is where we are now. The reality is we're probably closer to 15, and by the end of this month, we could be heading towards that 25%. And then we've stayed steady. 2009 was 9.9%. 2010 was 9.3%. 2011 was 8.5%. And then it started slowly but surely to go back down. 2019, 3.5%. So look at how fast, like that, over 3 weeks, what's taken place. And the difference between this and those is the market's doing okay. Had its best week, I think, ever. It's closed today. It's Good Friday. So it's best week ever as far as percentage-wise and jump. We fell down to 18. We went from 29 down to 18 and bounced back up, and we're sitting okay. It's great for your stocks. You're still down. But unemployment is very real. Uncertainty is very real. And they're starting to look around and say, how do we get this thing going again? Because the antsiness, the unrest, the fear of where your next rent is going to come from. When am I even going to get, the plague check? Somebody said, I think it was Bridget Fetzi said the other day, has anybody received their plague check yet? She's a comic. She's funny. I understand. I see it. You see it. I talk to people every day. I talk to business owners. I talk to sponsors who are struggling. They don't know when. And that uncertainty, like everything else, the uncertainty with the virus, the uncertainty with the economy, the uncertainty with money, paycheck, what your landlord going to do, how long can these banks and everybody continue to print money and help us out? That's scary.
We've got to be smart about how we do it. The president is shortly going to appoint a task force to talk about how we do it. But Austria is opening its economy. Denmark, Germany is starting to open its economy back up. And we've got to start talking about how to do that here.
Yeah. And we're going to do it inch by inch. But as I've said earlier, and I continue to say, when we commit, are we going full-blooded? And I don't mean overnight, everybody's back to normal. I mean, once we start the process, knowing that we probably won't have a vaccine, and also knowing that we may not have a for certain treatment, do we head back in the minute there is a little spike or a hot spot somewhere? Because I don't know if we can do that. Let me ask you guys this. Could you stand a start-stop? If you started working, started moving along, and then you stopped, and then you started working, and you started moving along, and you stopped? I don't think many businesses could handle that. I don't know if the economy can. And then on top of all of that, you've got the psyche of the American people who are going to be nervous. Why would they go spend money, even if they're making money, until they know for certain that this isn't going to happen again tomorrow? So they'll start stocking away. They won't be spending. They'll change their habits. You're also going to have businesses that are laying off hundreds of thousands of people across the country who are going to bring some back, but not all. They're learning to do more with less. And that's something that's real. The thought process of flipping a switch, while it sounds great, it's not real. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me and text your program right now. I know, Chad, that sounds depressing. Well, it sucks. I mean, I give you real way I see it, the studies, the things I'm looking at. I understand that it sucks. We all do. Here's the beauty, though, of the time that we live in. A, how fast we're taking on the virus is incredible. Technology, coupled with, science, technology, smashing together, creating amazing things, working at light speed to get this thing handled. Secondly, there'll be more millionaires, billionaires, and ingenuity coming out of this than any time probably in our history. We work with a lot of VCs, that's venture capital companies, my uncle and I and our company. And they're like looking everywhere. What's the thing that's coming out of this that we can use that we know will find solutions and help people? Because so many people have those ideas and opportunities. And you go back and look at the Great Depression. You go back and look at the Great Recession. How many millionaires and billionaires were born out of that? Because they came up with ideas and boom, away it went. And you're able to do things now at home in ways that we've never been able to. So that's a big thing too. It's going to be a shifting in our economy in a different way, but good will come out of this. Absolutely. But it is going to take a bit. 323-538-2423 is your text line. You can text me directly at Chad Benson Show, Twitter and Instagram as well. So get Raycons, right? Earbuds. Chad, what about you? Why do you need earbuds? How many of you are working out of the house? My son's teacher has these awful, I said, Jack, we're going to get her some Raycons. She gets these awful like earbuds and they fall out. They're not, and they're like, it's not even earbuds. It's just a little, they're earphones. And it's just, I said, we'll get her some Raycons. I can't hear. They fall out all the time. Raycons are the best earbuds around. And if you're at home right now, maybe you just want peace and quiet. Maybe you're doing conference calls and video chatting. You want to be able to hear. You got the kids in the background. Get the E25s from Raycons. Start well under $100. That's half the price of any of these other premium things out there, these earbuds that the sound quality isn't good. You get 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, better design, compact in such a way that you get a nice noise isolating fit. And I'm going to save you some more money right now as well. Go to buyraycon.com/Chad, buyraycon.com/Chad. When you do, you save 15% on top of everything else. Buyraycon.com/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
Check out our Chad Benson Show Facebook page where you can hang out or hang your grievances out to dry. This is Chad Benson.
Yeah, they're trying to build in safeguards, right? They are going to have like an all 32-team conference call that's going to be live throughout the whole draft, and ideally that'll be landlines. I don't know what you do if you don't have a landline. For instance, I don't. So if you couldn't get the pick in, or if the computer was glitching or something, you could sort of unmute the call and go, "Hey, it's Chris Ballard from the Colts. We're picking so and so."
Yeah, draft is going to go on. It's going to be weird. So the NFL draft going on now. Last year, you remember, 600,000 people in Nashville. It was a party like the NFL decided a couple of years ago. We're not going to do it every year now in New York. We're going to move it around. So they went to Nashville. This year was supposed to be in Vegas. They've got the new stadium for the Raiders. All of this stuff was going to take place. They were going to have the draft there. It was going to be massive. People were super excited. And then this thing puts a damper on it. And now to even do the draft, people are wondering, so how are you guys going to do this? And with Zoom having problems, because originally it was going to be that, and people were bombing, Zoom bombing as they call it, and doing all kinds of horrible things. Teams are worried about other teams spying. But it's going to go old school.
So I think that's the kind of thing they're working on. NFL people will complain about anything. So this is no exception. And I think, the concerns you're hearing, some are legit and some are a little overblown. I mean, I think the league and the people I talked to at the league yesterday have said, look, I mean, if there's a trade going down and we know two teams are working on a trade and the window expires because the connection was bad or something, we're not going to, we'll work with those teams and make sure the thing gets done. So they're going to try and be reasonable.
They're going to try. Again, they will complain about everything, and that guy knows. Dan Graziano right there, NFL insider over at ESPN. They will bitch about everything. Here's some news that I'm sure the NFL's not stoked about, though. New poll out, small sample size from Seton Hall University Stillman School of Business. Asked whether they would feel comfortable attending games before the development of a vaccine for the coronavirus. 72% of the respondents said nope. 12% say they would attend a game only if social distancing protocols were maintained. Only 13% say they'd feel safe attending a game with no changes, just like they've done in the past. 74% said they believe it's possible or likely or very likely sports will be canceled the rest of the year. Only 6% thought the NFL would start on time. 70% said the league should not start up at all to ensure the safety, and 20% said the league should resume but allow players to have the choice whether or not they should play. Interesting. NFL, people are looking and saying, because I think that's for a lot of people, that will be a huge barometer if the NFL and college football doesn't start or doesn't play at all, that this thing is even worse than we could ever imagine. Crazy, right? It's all crazy. Good Friday. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
The president's going to be judged at the end of the day on how this comes out, not necessarily how it started. How it started is going to be a huge part of that, but only because it's driving the end result. And that means that the president's decisions day in and day out about whether to open the economy, for example, still stand to be the most important and critical decisions that he is making in the context of whether he is going to win re-election.
Casey Hunt right there, and she's right. At the end of the day, how this finishes will be more important than how it starts and whether or not they got off on the right foot or the wrong foot. We can debate that all day. Personally, I didn't think he got off on the right foot. I didn't think he took it as serious as he possibly could. In saying that, there has been enough times over the last 4 or 5 weeks where he's definitely taken a lot more serious. My problems have been and continue to be the name calling, the fighting, the press being nothing but gotcha questions, and they love to be antagonistic and fight. That gets old on both sides. It does. But Trump will be judged by how it ends. If we get out of this thing where, remember the predictions, right? Let's go over those again. Originally coming out, several models had 50 million, 40 million people infected, up to 2 million people would lose their lives, or 800,000. That dropped down to 500,000. Then that dropped down to 240,000. And now we're down to 60,000. That number will probably be readjusted again. So if we get out of this and there's 20,000 people who've lost their lives, well, that's 20,000 too many over something like this. Trump will be looked at and said, oh. And then it'll be, how does the recovery go? And will he have enough time, and will we get out of this in such a way that he'll have 2 or 3 months to try to engineer some sort of recovery that may give him a strong path to a second term? That's what he's looking at. This is if I I always say, I go back to, he's like Larry from Jaws, right? The mayor. He's trying to save August. How do I save August? He's trying to do that. He's thinking, if we can get out of this thing by June, and we can open up everything by June 1st, totally open up, 85, 90% of the engines revving. We'll still have some hot spots that aren't going to be, like New York is not going to be open for business probably till, I'm assuming, end of this year into next year, where it's really wide open again and people are back to a day-to-day normal way of life. So, but for the rest of the country, man, he's thinking, if I get this thing done by August and we can get rocking and rolling, I'll have I'll have, let's say, June really to get going. July will start picking up steam. Then August, we can get motoring into the fourth quarter, right? I have a chance to save this, bring this back up, see the economy rocking. That's what he's looking at. As much as he's looking at preventing as many deaths as possible, he's also saying to himself, I'm in the middle of a campaign, and I got to figure it out. How am I going to get back? What am I going to do? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well.
The death count increases dramatically every day. According to Johns Hopkins University, 1,661 people died today. Total dead, 16,478. Hard to believe. At least 461,437 people now infected in the United States alone.
Health officials say this week will be the deadliest of the pandemic yet, and what we do in the coming days and weeks may define how we live for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. How we live for the foreseeable future. What is that foreseeable future? That's the $1 trillion question. How do we live? It's a great article in the LA Times today talking about we can't live in our houses forever. Eventually, we're going to get back out there. But what does out there look like for people? For some people, they're going to just be so excited to be out there, they're just going to go, I don't care. For other people, there's going to be caution. We were just talking about a poll that they took about the NFL, that 70+% of people will not feel comfortable going to an NFL game until there's a vaccine. You could probably take that and say Major League Baseball, NHL, movies, concerts. That's big. It's huge to think that 70% of people will not feel comfortable going back to doing what they were doing pre-coronavirus. There's a lot of treatments, a lot of things are going on outside that they're trying to do. Hey, we're trying this over here. Europe's trying this. We're trying this. Because everybody's looking for what's not only the cure. So a vaccine blocks. A cure or a treatment, what is it? They're trying all kinds of things, including plasma, taking antibodies from recovered patients or people who have already built up antibodies for whatever reason and saying, let's give sick people this opportunity and see if it works.
I understand as well, Jason, you were actually the first plasma donor on the West Coast.
You're given blood. They take the blood. It goes through a machine. They separate it out, and they put the blood back in, and they just collect the plasma, which has the antibodies. Since I fought it off and recovered successfully, these antibodies can help other patients who quite haven't had the immune response and aren't responding well to the disease. They'll use my plasma, which has essentially antibodies to help assist in the fight.
And that'll be neat. See if that works. Some of the other things they're trying, rather than they're seeing all of these people, especially younger people who are coming in, and it's about inflammation more than it is anything else, is trying different ways to steroids and certain treatments to try to bring back down the inflammation. And when you bring back down the inflammation, you won't get to the point where you need to not only be hospitalized, but eventually on a ventilator. The hydrochloroquine is being talked about, but there's several other things. And these have nothing to do with the vaccine. These are all about people who have it and how do we stop them from getting to a point where they need to be hospitalized. And they treat it as just, I've got a cold, I need to take this. I've got a flu, I need to take this. That's the way that we have to look at this. I think for a lot of people, even if we didn't have a vaccine, if you knew that there was a treatment, meaning if you got sick, you go to the doctor either gives you a shot, writes you a prescription, you stay home for a couple days, you get through it. I think people feel a lot better. We don't have a vaccine and we don't have any kind of cure or treatment for it. So you're going to feel more wary. And it's invisible. That's the other thing. How many of you listening right now look at things differently? Every handle you touch, things that you used to just take for granted, right? You go from door to door inside your office. You'd push an elevator button or whatever you're doing. You're going up the stairs at your office. You open the door. You go down the stairs. You grab the railings. You turn really fast. You get in your car. You drive. You go put gas in your car. And you start thinking every one of those things somebody else has touched. What if somebody had? If you knew there was a way to treat it and that it would be no different than the flu, that if you're pretty healthy, that you're going to survive it easily, that changes your mind. But without a vaccine or any kind of treatment, I understand why people are scared. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon, especially when you're inundated all day with death, 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 death. And you're like, wow, wow. That's scary. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. Here's your Twitter. You can text the program as well. Love hearing from you. California. Today is the day, California.
This is Alex Stone in Los Angeles, where as of today, it is now the law that everybody must wear a face covering or mask while at an essential business, whether working there or a customer there. All grocery store workers and restaurant workers must be covering their nose and mouth. Any customer who fails to wear a covering can be turned away.
So you got to wear a covering today. I'm not in California, but I have my mask here. I found some mask. I found an N95 mask, and I put it on. I put it on Instagram. I'll tweet it out. I look like, you remember Bane from, he's a supervillain from Batman? I look like his cheap cousin. Like, he's not a good one. He's not like the low rent Bane. My head shaved. And I got a beard, so it looks weird. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. I wonder if is there like a specific thing for the face coverings, or just have to be a face? Like, can I wear a bandana? Does my nose have to be covered? What if I just have a mask? Like a mask. What if I have like an alien mask or a Michael Myers mask? Is that good? Is that not good? Does it have to be a specific thing to allow me to get in and out of places? Little questions that need to be answered. We need some clarification. I'm very much a clarification. You didn't say it had to be that. You just said we had to have a face covering. You can't see my face. I'm dressed as Michael Myers, the social distancing champion since 1978. You're sitting at home right now looking at ways to cut some of the fat off your bills. You've got credit cards. You look and you're like, I'm paying how much in interest rates? You need my friends over at Lightstream. You do. Lightstream credit card consolidation loans have rates from as low as 5.95% APR with auto pay. There's absolutely no fees. You can quickly roll the balances from multiple credit cards into one single loan payment per month. You get a low fixed interest rate and free up more money in your monthly budget, which is awesome, especially right now. More and more, I'm getting listeners saying, hey, I heard about Lightstream on your show. The process, you're right, Chad, absolutely easy, stress-free, helped us consolidate our debts, saved us monthly dollars, which is what a lot of people are looking to do right now. Apply today and get a special interest rate discount and save even more. The only way to get this discount is to go to lightstream.com/Benson. That's lightstream.com/Benson. Subject to credit approval. Rate includes 0.50% auto pay discount. Terms and conditions apply. Offer subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com/Benson for more information. Chad Benson Show.
Being antisocial sucks. Hang with Chad's friends on Facebook, The Chad Benson Show. And if you just need some alone time, head on over to Twitter at Chad Benson Show. Either way, we can't wait to meet the real you.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending. What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old internet. What's trending? What is trending? Good Friday. Trending. Good Friday. Good Friday meaning trending. Lots of Good Fridays. Colin Kaepernick is trending because rumors that the Jets had signed him. There's a fake account set up. People were aghast and excited, all in the same. What's open, what's not open on Good Friday? People are still asking that question. Banks, stock markets, things of that nature. And Troll Worlds tours. So the Trolls movie, this is the sequel to the popular Trolls movie. The World Tour is what this one's called. Opens up today, nowhere in your home. So that's kind of cool. That's trending. Head on over to Twitter. Guess what you find there, kids? Lots of stuff about Good Friday. Trolls watch party. Matt Gaetz is a tool. I don't know what he did. Let's take a look. I'll probably agree with you on this one. Must have done something. I don't know. He was on somewhere. Probably said something stupid. Not a shocker. Not a shocker. Not a shocker. Friday vibes. Good Friday. State of emergency. National Hug Your Dog Day. I actually hugged Doodle this morning when I got up. So I have Doodle. He's my dog. He's an interesting character. I gave him a little hug, a little squeeze this morning. I said, Good Friday to you, Doodle. And he can't see really well. I don't think he can hear. And the people that had him before that abandoned him, I don't think they spoke English, so I don't think he understands anything we say. You're a jerk, Chad. Just saying. And, of course, coronavirus is everywhere. Easter weekend. You do anything for Easter? It's really weird. Like, what are people going to do for Easter? Normally, it's obvious to everybody that this is probably the biggest church day of the year. As we celebrate Holy Week, culminating in Easter on Sunday, a lot of churches are saying no. Some churches are defying that. We'll talk about that. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. You can text at us as well. Again, we're over 470,000 cases in the country right now with the coronavirus. But probably this weekend we'll hit the peak in New York, and that'll start to hopefully slow this thing down. Between New York and New Jersey, you're looking at half of the cases in the country. That's big. And New York is still the epicenter, so hopefully they'll get through it this weekend, and we can start to see bright spots. And I think we will. They're coming. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. It's the Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
With antibody testing underway at Stanford Medicine, the researchers want to know if COVID-19 actually arrived in California from China last fall. Doctors here reported an early and bad flu season in the fall. Victor Davis Hansen is with Stanford's Hoover Institution.
Something is going on that we haven't quite found out yet.
His team wants to know if what many of us had here was actually COVID-19 back in the fall, and now there may be herd immunity in California, answering why California's numbers have been relatively low.
Yeah. Talked a bit about that yesterday, and the herd immunity is real. At the end of the day, as Newt Witkowski talked about Newt, like who's Newt? Newt Witkowski, Rockefeller Institute, epidemiologist, smart cat. He talked about the fact that we need herd immunity because all we're doing essentially is prolonging.
Well, what people are trying to do is to flatten the curve. I don't really know why. What happens if you flatten the curve, you also prolong to widen it, and it takes more time. And I don't see a good reason for a respiratory disease to stay in the population longer than necessary.
And with herd immunity, what you have is about 80% of the people will have either been exposed to it and built up antibodies. And because the antibodies have been built up, they're not going to get it. They're not going to carry it. People that have had it already and through that have built up the antibodies. So if it is out there, if it is in, because right now, as much as we're quarantining and we're trying to social distance, the reality is everywhere you go, and when they talk about this being out there, right, public spread, community spread, it's can last this long here or this long there. It can hang in the air for 3 hours. You may be walking somewhere totally by yourself, and it can hang in the air for 3 hours. Somebody else could have done what? Could have sneezed, been the only one around themselves. Next thing you know, you've got it. So quarantining, I get why they're doing it. At the same time, the reality of this is you wouldn't even know where you got it. Most people, unless you're living in a house with somebody who has it and you've never gone anywhere, you wouldn't even know where you picked it up. So herd immunity is important. And that antibodies test is going to, I think, show certain things that could be really, really helpful. Because wouldn't you like to know if you've got the antibodies, meaning that nothing's going to happen to you. You could be exposed to it, nothing's going to happen to you. You've had it, and you're like, oh, wow, that flu or that thing I thought was a head cold was really this. Or maybe you're like, I didn't feel anything. You say I had it. But either way, you've been exposed to it, had it, you've got through it, and now you've built it up. And they're trying as fast as they can to get this out there to the people.
These California doctors hope that the information they gather can help alleviate some of that anxiety and uncertainty that we're all feeling, and they want to make a difference in how policy is made moving forward. Results from both of these testing sites are coming soon.
And the policy is what? The policy would be us who've potentially had it. I say us because I think I had it. Would get back out there in mass. I know Garcetti, who's the mayor of L.A., awful, just awful. But he said there could be an immunity passport, that you would be allowed to do things that maybe other people wouldn't be able to do. And that would be interesting to see how they work that. I mean, do you have to take a picture? Do you have to have a passport? Do you have to show something? There's got to be, something to that. And in Italy, they've talked about that. Same thing in Germany, and a lot of other countries are saying, if you've been exposed to it, you've had it, you've got the antibodies, you're not likely to catch it again, you're not likely to spread it, you should be able to get out there and live your life, so maybe we'll give you guys a slip or something of that nature where you guys can go out and resume normal work, whatever that may be. And again, we have no idea what normal looks like.
It is very likely that we will progress towards the steps towards normalization as we get to the end of this 30 days. And I think that's going to be a good time to look and see how quickly can we make that move to try and normalize. But hopefully, by the time we get to the summer, we will have taken many steps in that direction.
Dr. Fauci there. Normalization. All right. Don't exactly know what that looks like because I think it's going to be inch by inch. And I also, the one thing that I think people need to realize, too, is we get on Trump a lot. I do. But we're set up in this country to be 50 individual countries, each governor doing their own thing, what they think is best. Some governors really want the feds to be involved. Other governors say, we'll call you if we need you. And we're going to handle the things that we think we should handle for our state the way that we think it should be done. So some states are going to come out of this much quicker than other states. Like California, I think, is going to be as cautious as possible for as long as possible. Would I be surprised if they stayed into social distancing for a while? No, that article I read earlier today in the LA Times says that it may be August before the social distancing rules are eliminated or taken away in California, even if this thing is they think they've got it, really clamped down. They're calling it overcautious. I'm in Arizona. Doug Ducey is the governor, and he's really resistant on a lot of these things. And I think at some point in time, he will take off this, hey, social distancing. I mean, we said, it can't be in groups of 10. Well, you guys can be in groups of 50, not 100, but groups of 50. And then it'll be like you guys can get back to normal. And then you can open up the hair salons and stuff. I think that'll happen a lot quicker in places like this. Wyoming hasn't had a death. South and North Dakota hasn't had anything. So really, you start looking and say those states may get back to work like that. Plus, they're coming out of long winters, and so they've got cabin fever anywhere. But I don't know what normal looks like. And summer, right? Normally this time of year, kids are getting ready to get out of school. You got the prom. You get ready. Oh my God, people graduation, college getting ready to start. Oh, it's just we're going to go out. We're going to have fun. We're going to do all kinds of stuff. And now, of course, nobody's got any money, and we're all broke, and we're all looking around going, what are we going to do with ourselves? And what are we going to do with the kids? They've been home for 3 months. They're just driving me nuts. We could take a trip to where?
Can you envision a summer where people are going back to beaches, baseball games, weddings, reunions are happening? Is that in the cards right now?
It can be in the cards when we pull back and try to open up the country. We have to be prepared that when the infections start to rear their heads again, that we have in place a very aggressive and effective way to identify, isolate, contact trace. So the answer to your question is yes, if we do the things that we need to do to prevent the resurgence.
Yes, and to have a treatment. I think a treatment changes everything. A treatment changes everybody's outlook on stuff. If you knew there was a way for this thing, if you caught it, where, because, again, 99% of people are going to survive this thing. If you're older, a little tougher. If you're younger, you're going to be fine. There are exceptions. You see somebody who's 25 and seems to be healthy and they die and you're like, oh my God. And you also see somebody who's 101 and survived all kinds of things and they get through this. So there's all kinds of exceptions. But the mental side is, if there's a treatment, I'm getting on with it. And if I get sick, then I'll take whatever treatment's out there and we'll move on with it. And for some people, it's going to be the vaccine. And this weekend, you've got Easter. Normally a huge weekend. People gathering in big families, celebrating Easter, what it means to them. Passover's going on, and we've had everything upended. Some churches are going to say, I'm doing whatever I want to do, and I'll continue to do it. Louisiana Pastor Tony Spell.
We do have a command from God, and there are no governing bodies that can tell us we cannot gather and worship freely.
Do you believe the science that people who are in these large gatherings close together are at a greater risk of contracting this deadly disease?
We believe that 99.3% of the people that contract it don't even know they have it and recover. People have been locked up in their homes for 22 days now. Suicide, domestic violence, starvation. Hope is the last stronghold in those people's lives.
And there is something to that. There absolutely is. Hope. People are hoping. People are praying. People are turning to whatever they need to turn to. And some people want to get together and gather. And these are some of the constitutional questions that are out there. My church has said no. No. We're not going to do that. A lot of churches around the country, a majority of them are saying we're not going to do that. We've got modern technology now. We can get together in a much different way, in a much bigger way than we could just even having it in there. Get a much bigger audience. So that's how we're going to do it, because safety matters.
As the news and the panic about COVID-19 began to spread, I started getting calls from pastors and priests all around the world asking the exact same question: is Easter going to be canceled this year? And my answer was the same to all of them, and it was this: as shepherds, we are called to protect God's flock, not just feed it and lead it. And if you really love your congregation, tell them to stay at home on Easter. That's going to curtail assembling, but it's not going to curtail our celebration. Easter it'll be curtailed, but it won't be canceled.
That's Rick Warren, also a mega church. And again, it's pretty simple there. Keep your flock safe, right? The people you're leading, keep them safe.
Because nothing can actually cancel the resurrection. It happened 2,000 years ago. That's actually what happened at the very first Easter. Locked, with the doors locked for fear of the authorities. Now, they weren't afraid of a virus, but they were afraid that the same group of people who had crucified Christ might come after them. And so, congratulations. You're celebrating the way the first Easter was celebrated, in a home with the door locked for fear.
Rick Warren again. He's right. Easter. Is Easter going to be canceled? That's silly. It's like saying, are we canceling Sunday? No. Easter's not going to be canceled. And by the way, the Easter Bunny, again, essential worker, will be working. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. I work with an amazing organization. Speaking of something that's essential, our first responders are going through so much right now. Our police, our firemen, paramedics, as well as our nurses, our doctors, and, of course, our veterans. We forget that we have veterans all over the country, and people returning home having served and done so much, and they're struggling. PTSD, injuries, things of that nature that we can't even imagine. And Wounded Paw Project, they actually transform shelter dogs into service dogs for veterans, first responders, and their family. And right now they're being inundated, and they need your help. Need a donation. You can do cash. You can also go to smile.amazon.com, set your supporting group to Wounded Paw Project, or even better, you can donate a car, truck, RV, boat. If it flies or floats, they'll take it. You get a great tax-deductible gift, and that money will be used to protect, advocate, and transform those shelter dogs into service dogs. Call them. Find out what you can do today. 844-678-4PAW, 844-678-4729, or better yet, check out the website. It's just amazing. WoundedPawProject.org. WoundedPawProject.org. You'll be saving a paw to save a life. The Chad Benson Show.
Wanna be boys? Give me a bowl of chili with plenty of peppers.
One Mexican heartburn.
Why don't you mugs grow up?
The Chad Benson Show, where independent, a la carte thinkers have a seat at the table and a voice in the dialogue.
I'll have what she's having.
This is Chad Benson.
Two different love stories on Netflix.
My sister's getting married.
The romantic comedy Love, Wedding, Repeat stars Olivia Munn and Sam Claflin, while Tiger Tales from Emmy-winning Master of None director Alan Yang. Those are out today, along with the Coachella documentary 20 Years in the Desert on YouTube. On Sunday,
she's back, Eve.
The Emmy-winning drama Killing Eve returns for season 3 on AMC and BBC America. A new season of the Issa Rae comedy Insecure on HBO. The Tiger King special drops on Netflix.
Eddie Brockenhurst.
And Belgravia premieres on Epix, a new series from Downton Abbey creator Julian Fellows.
Ooh, lots of stuff to watch, and some other movies that were supposed to be released in the theater are being released. Things like Trolls. Speaking of movies, Dr. Fauci, very popular. There will probably be some sort of made-for-TV movie or Netflix special to come out. They asked Dr. Fauci. So, somebody might play you.
Saturday Night Live is back this weekend. After a month of being off, what do you think the chances are that somebody will portray you?
I have no idea. I hope not.
Well, if they did, which actor would you want to play you? Here are some suggestions that I've heard. Ben Stiller, Brad Pitt. Which one?
Oh, Brad Pitt, of course.
Apparently, not a Stiller fan. Of course, Brad Pitt. Nobody says, yeah, give me the goofy guy. Give me the goofy guy. Speaking of movies, though, and entertainment, huge weekend for movies.
What's up, my techno-troll? A major milestone today in the movie world. The first major studio film skipping the box office and going straight to streaming.
Let's go save the world!
Trolls World Tour is available for rental Friday. It's an experiment by Universal in a time when most studios so far have chosen to postpone releases, waiting for theaters to reopen. The first Trolls movie made almost $350 million worldwide. The industry will be closely watching Trolls World Tour to see if at-home audiences bite or not.
Here's something, right? They've been talking about this for a while. How fast can you get it out? How fast can you get it out? We're going to be changing in so many ways. And I think the entertainment industry is going to look at big box office, huge movies. If this thing does well as it would in the theater, why would you put it in the theater? I think the next one is going to be Wonder Woman. That's what we're hearing, that is going to go straight to. And that will be the biggest. I mean, as much as Trolls has done, $300 million, that will be the biggest for sure. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Hope you're doing well. Keep your chin up. Keep smiling. Good Friday. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
But I think our country, from an economic standpoint, will end up being stronger than ever. We have tremendous stimulus. We have tremendous stimulus plans. We have things in the works that are going to really, I think, fire the country. I think that what's going to happen is we're going to have a big bounce rather than a small bounce.
Huge, massive, mega, huge. Will we have that? No, we're not. So negative, Chad. It's just not going to happen. Partly because we're not just going to throw open the doors. Will we get back to where we were and better? Yes. But when you think of a big bounce, you think of something hits and goes straight up again. That's not going to happen. It's going to be a lot of small bounces along the way. building and picking up steam. That's what's going to happen. I love the optimism. Got zero problem with that. We should be optimistic. We're going to get through this, and it sucks. I mean, coronavirus has been a real Richard. It's ruined sports. It's ruined entertainment. It's ruining people's lives. It's killing people. It's ruining people financially. It's doing a lot of things to not just us, but we're all in this together. We say that, we're all in this together, and we are literally all in this together. There's like 3 places on earth that haven't been touched by this. So we're all in this together, and we're going to bounce back. It's amazing to watch how the human beings have adapted so quickly, even disgruntled and angry and upset. We've adapted. All right, we're doing this. Work. We're pivoting. How are we going to do it? We can work out of the house. Some people can do this. Some people, it's a business-to-business, face-to-face kind of thing. Can't do that. Other businesses are trying to figure out a way to still do business-to-business, face-to-face. I've got a car company I work out with here, Liberty GMC, and they did gangbuster business in the last couple of weeks. Nobody's going. Just everything's online. It's just they're like, man, our model's changing. So, yes, it's going to come back. But it's not going to come back like that. Do I agree with Trump when he says here?
We will be back. Honestly, I think our country's going to be back from an economic standpoint. Again, you can never replace the people that were lost, and to their families, certainly you can never do a thing like that. But we will have succeeded in many ways, hopefully keeping the number way below our minimum numbers, and also from an economic standpoint. I think we're going to open up strong. I think we're going to open up very successfully, and I'd like to say even more successfully than before.
I think we are going to open up, and I think there'll be a lot of curiosity. There's a lot of fear, though. That's the one thing. We think because we've got this amazing foundation that we're going to flip a switch and away we go. I don't see that happening because we're not flipping the switch and just, we're going to open the garage door just enough to let a little bit out, and just enough to let a little bit, and just enough to let. You ever seen the way that they, like with dams and dikes, will they open up a little here and let a little bit out there? And that's kind of what we're going to do at first. And then we'll get rolling, and it's going to take a while. And then you've got to take in the psychology of it all, which I think a lot of people underestimate how much this affects people. And the more that we realize that there's a bigger effect psychologically than people realize, that people are going to be afraid to spend money, that people are going to be scared to catch this, that there's going to be trepidation everywhere, and there's just going to be this kind of worrisome attitude of, what if this starts up again, and oh my God, and we'll have to go back in the house, and I can't spend money, or it's going to take a bit, but we will come back. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me. You can text the program. Happy Good Friday. Dr. Jen Ashton.
Someone can do all the right things. This virus is sneaky and this virus is powerful. But we do have to remember some numbers. In the first preliminary report published by the CDC, younger people aged 20 to 44 represented just 2 to 4% of ICU admissions, but it's not zero.
No, it's not zero. And what are they saying with a lot of those? Some of them are underlying conditions, but also your body immune system attacks itself and overreacts. But as I look at all of this stuff, and I'm a numbers, I like data. I'm always into data. What do the numbers say? What are trying to, because at times you're going to have to guesstimate on some of this, because we got, 470,000, give or take a few people who are infected that we know of. How many people do we not know about? Is that double? Is it triple? Talking about California having herd immunity because they think that they were already exposed to it late last year into early January, why their numbers aren't through the roof. That would mean if there was herd immunity that 40 million people in California. How many millions would have been exposed to it potentially have had it already or will never get it, that changes those numbers at an outlook where you're like, oh my God, it's 7% of people over here get it die, and 3% over here that get it die, and 5% over there, and 12%. But those numbers are misleading because we're catching only the very sick. You're not looking at the entire picture of 50 to 70, maybe even 80% of people who show zero symptoms or very little. We catch only the severe because we're not testing everybody.
It starts to kind of block off areas of the lung that are critically important for oxygenating the blood. Then if you look at the heart, new data is showing that cells, inflammatory cells, affect the heart muscle. COVID-19 can mimic heart attacks in an ICU setting, and they can cause irregular heartbeats, and they can also cause acute renal failure.
So it does a lot of different things. That's why the underlying comorbidities that they talk about, people are coming in, and obesity and diabetes are playing a huge, huge role in how sick people are getting. And it hits your whole body. And for some people, it does nothing. It does you would never even know you had it. And that's probably the good majority of it. And much like with the Spanish flu, you go look at the Spanish flu. They talk about the Spanish flu. So go look at the Spanish flu. And they give you a guesstimate. Kill between 25 and 80 million people. Well, how many did it kill? Well, we're not quite sure. How many people have died from this that weren't tested? Probably there's some decent amount out there. How many people were also, this was attributed to them dying because they had it, but they died from something else that had nothing to do with it, but because they had it, they count it. It's not an exact science, these kind of numbers. And partly, and the numbers are what people, there's a reason that they always put numbers up there. You got 470,000 people and 16,000 deaths, and if you go by that, how many we'll never know. I'm sure some of you listening right now have probably been exposed to it, maybe even had it. And you're thinking to yourself, well, I wonder if I had it like 2 months ago. I didn't feel good, rarely get a fever, and got a little bit of fever, had a little bit of a cough, but nothing else. And it took me a couple days to get over it. And how many of you thought, well, I had a bit of a cough for a day or so, but then it kind of went away. And you're starting to think, was that me getting it? Maybe. That's why the antibodies test is going to be really important. Because when they have that, it'll show you whether or not you had it and whether or not you could even get it. Because some people naturally have built up antibodies for whatever reason, and they're not going to get it. Worst case scenario, they talked about this, was 50 million people. That was, remember the first stuff coming out of all of these studies, pandemics, 50 million people in America is going to get it, and 2.2 million people are going to die from it. And there's 300 other million people that are in America that would never have gotten it. Why? Well, whatever reason, the exposure itself, they just weren't going to catch it. Antibodies, maybe they've had, because remember the coronavirus has been around since the 60s. So maybe somewhere along the line you had the coronavirus on 2 or 3 occasions and something built up. Who knows? But the good news is those numbers are changing. They've revised them down. Now we're looking at 60,000 deaths. And I have a feeling we're not going to get near that. I have a feeling we're going to get to that 30, 40,000 range, which is awful. But compared to where they were talking about, to where we are now, it's a much better outlook. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Shows, your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me and text the program as well. MyPillow, Mike Lindell. You guys know who he is, founder of MyPillow. He's doing something amazing. He has flipped over his production from making MyPillow products to making masks for hospitals. And right now he's blowing everything out so they can make room for all of these things. Supima My Pillows, Giza towels and Dream Sheets, My Pillow towels, Roll and Go Anywhere pillows, all of those things, everything, BOGO. Buy one, get one free. You get a 60-day money-back guarantee, a 10-year warranty, and everything's made here in the U.S. of A. This is what's awesome. You go to MyPillow.com, use the promo code Benson when you check out. If you order Mike's book, he's going to ship everything for free and throw in a $25 gift card for your next purchase. The book's amazing. If you know anything about him, his struggles with drugs, how his life went, how a guy who 15, 20 years ago, you wouldn't know anything about him, you would have said he's going to be nothing, went from nothing to something. It's really interesting. And free shipping doesn't hurt. And $25. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
Warning, no snowflake zone. Uninformed opinions are in danger of melting. The Chad Benson Show.
Today in California, a lot of other places across the country, they're getting new edicts from their government. Hey, their state government officials are telling this, telling them that. People are already scared. What can I do? What can I do? Joining us now is our buddy Jim Kennedy from the Kennedy Institute of Public Policy Research. Jim, you live in California. You got things going on that are much different, but you've got a whole process here, which I find to be interesting. You haven't been out doing anything in a store for about a month, and you're going to give people some tips on how to do certain things so they can avoid the store. Is this correct, sir?
Absolutely, sir. Yeah, I've not been in a grocery store from the 13th of March. But I have kept food in, and I probably got more food now than I did then. So yeah, absolutely. You can go through the online ordering process of many of these stores and keep yourself stocked up. Though you got to have some tricks, and you've got to have some advanced planning if you're going to go ahead and do that.
All right, let's talk about some tricks because, you don't know what's in a store anymore, obviously. We don't know. I mean, because I've gone into stores here where one day they've got toilet paper and everything you can dream of, but no meat. The next time you go in there, they've got tons of meat and nothing else, no vegetables. It's nuts. So give us some tips.
Sure, and you're exactly right. And it really varies by store by store. I've got a friend whose son only eats frozen pizza and mac and cheese, and he can't find anything. He lives about half an hour from me, and I haven't had any problems getting mac and cheese online or frozen pizzas, but then I can't get tortillas, and he's got all the tortillas he says in his store that he needs. But yeah, you are correct. I've used a number of the different major grocery chains and their pickup service or their delivery service. One of the things I've noticed, especially out here in California, is that the time slots are very hard to obtain and they go very quickly. Majority of them reset at midnight. So if you're either up early or you're up late, a little after midnight, do your shopping then. You have a much better chance of getting a grocery slot for delivery. I've been doing the pickup with the Kroger stores, and the first time I did it about 2 weeks into this, it took me 5 days to get a slot. I got one, like I said, early in the morning. I got it early in the morning. It was for like a 10 o'clock pickup. I only got 4 of the 14 items. Now, I got one again last week for another order, for a much more extensive order. I think I got 40 of the 42 items. Again, the 2 items I was missing, flour tortillas and corn tortillas. I'm determined to do my own Taco Tuesday, but the grocery stores seem to be intent about not letting me do that. So that's basically what that's taken care of. The other tricks are you're going to have to notice that you are not going to be able to get all of your discounts. I'm a guy that used to go into a store and expect to walk out paying half the bill because of discounts and coupons and specials, and that's not going to happen when you're doing it online. But then again, you're so happy to get food, you really don't care anymore. You're just happy to pay whatever it takes for the most part to get something. Again, products will vary based upon your store. But that's pretty much what I've learned so far. And by the way, I'm still not running into toilet paper, and I'm not ordering any paper products because I'm figuring that's just a lost cause. So I was able to get some paper towels a couple weeks ago online from Staples when I also bought some toner cartridges for my computer or for my printer.
so insane. Talking to Jim Kennedy Institute of Public Policy Research. So Instacart, a lot of people are like, what's Instacart? Of all the stuff that you've used out there, which one is the best?
The Kroger one's been fairly reliable. Again, if you get a slot, it took like 4 or 5 days. And the thing is, they only go 4 or 5 days out. That's why I say about getting a slot's difficult. It's not like you can basically go out and get a slot that's like 10 days out. They only start releasing them about 5 days out. So that's why if you get them early in the morning or late at night, depending upon what you're calling it, you'll be able to get one. I used one that Instacart delivers for. Instacart is a delivery service. It's been around for a couple of years at least, if not longer. And they've done this for a long time. The problem is they're getting unbelievable amounts of volume, and they've got a number of problems with their deliveries. I did not get my delivery, though it says I did, from one of the stores, and it took 10 days to get them to respond, and finally took a number of threats before they would basically give me back my money. But then they did give me a refund and gave me a credit for a future order. So at least it finally, they did get back to me, but they were very, very difficult. And there's a lot of people online that are complaining about it too.
Well, Jim, as always, brother, love having you on. You be safe out there. Get a mask and have a great Easter, and we will talk to you again soon.
Thanks, you too.
Jim Kennedy, Institute of Public Policy Research. Little tips there. Got to know what to do. Everybody's trying to figure it all out. We're all in this together, for better or worse, and I always say for better. Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Our numbers are headed in the right direction. We still have to be vigilant, but while we save lives, we've also got to get started saving livelihoods. We got to get this economy back open.
That's our buddy. Love that guy. You know who he is. John Kennedy says some crazy stuff, but he's right. People are asking questions about when can we jumpstart this thing. And that's, for a lot of people, and it sounds awful and, it's horrible, the economy before people. It's not the economy before people, but understand that the destruction of an economy will lead to a massive amount of poverty and death as well. So how do you walk a fine line of trying to get people back to work and at the same time trying to save as many as possible, realizing that one may put people in jeopardy in one way and the other one may put people in lives in jeopardy in another way? We're almost at 17 million unemployed in 3 weeks. 17 million. I talked to a business owner yesterday, restaurant owner, who has no idea when they're going to open. No idea. He's like, I'm looking at these SBA loans, and I'm thinking to myself, you want me to take out a loan that will cover 2 months of employee salaries. So I'm going to pay employees to not be at work or doing anything and keep enough money to keep the lights on and the landlord happy and do that. And then after 2 months, I'm SOL and I may still have to close down. It's a tough thing if you're a business. It is. It's a very, very tough thing. What do you do? I don't know. One thing I do know is a lot of people are having their hours cut. By the way, if your hours are cut because of the coronavirus, not because you're a crappy employee, but your hours are cut. So let's say, you're 40 hours a week and they say, look, we can keep you for 20 hours. That's what we can pay you for. You can apply for unemployment to make up the difference of your lost wages. My mother's a company yesterday they closed down. They said this is stupid. They're an essential part where they'll keep a skeleton crew to go out and put emergency stuff for glass and casings and things like so. If somebody breaks into like a 7-Eleven and the wall, the glass is shattered, her company will go out and repair that. But they're not getting any kind of work. They're only allowed to do certain essential things. So they looked at the SBA thing and they said, it's huge. It wasn't as easy and as simple as they made it out to look. And then you get put on some sort of waiting list and you're waiting to hear. So they just decided to keep a small skeleton crew and lay everybody off. You got to sit there and say what's best. At some point in time, you sit there and you say to yourself in your mind, what's best for me and my family? What looks best for me and my family? Well, surviving. Okay. Surviving, great. Fantastic. We all want to survive. But what is going to put food on the table? That's a very real question that people are starting to have. I think a lot of people thought this would be a 2-week thing, and then they realized, okay, it's going to be a little bit longer. And then they're looking and saying, we're already on the 10th of April. And we may revisit this come end of this month. But I think we all realize at the end of this month, we're probably still going to have a mess. So what do? People are getting frustrated. You knew it would happen. And not only that, there's a psychological question that goes along with people sitting at home, not only having cabin fever, but also starting to feel like everything's out of control. And they feel down because they're not contributing.
Before the well-intentioned arugula and tofu crowd gets all lubed up, I'm not talking about opening it Monday, but we've got to get this economy open. Government shut it down. We got some bad unemployment numbers. This economy has been chewed up, spit out, and stepped on. It looks like a scene from Mad Max.
Yeah, it does. It has a chance to. So let's break down the unemployment numbers. Just a quick one. Because we're no longer in a recession. All right, the recession is a dream. We're in a depression. So let's break it down. You got to go back to the 20s, the highest rate ever, 1929. You go back there and you see 24.9% unemployment. Right, it started to tick up from there, slowly but surely. The market crash, unemployment rate, 1929, 3.2, 8.7, 1930, 15.9, 31, 23.6, 32, and then the highest mark, 24.9. But when we talk about a depression, think about this for a second. 34, still 21%, 35, 20%, 36, 16%, 14% in 31, ticks up to 19% in 38, and then the draft in 1941 finally gets under 10%. 42, 4.7. 1.9% in 43. And then we stayed steady in the 3s, 5s, 6. Then you get to the 70s, and we're back up at 7.2%, 8.2%, 82, 10.8%. Which is where we are now. The reality is we're probably closer to 15. And by the end of this month, we could be heading towards that 25%. And then we've stayed steady. 2009 was 9.9%. 2010 was 9.3%. 2011 was 8.5%. And then it started slowly but surely to go back down. 2019, 3.5%. So look at how fast, like that, over 3 weeks, what's taken place. And the difference between this and those is the market's doing okay. Had its best week, I think, ever. It's closed today. It's Good Friday. So it's best week ever as far as percentage-wise and jump. We fell down to 18. We went from 29 down to 18 and bounced back up, and we're sitting okay. It's great for your stocks. You're still down. But unemployment is very real. Uncertainty is very real. And they're starting to look around and say, how do we get this thing going again? Because the antsiness, the unrest, the fear of where your next rent is going to come from. When am I even going to get, the plague check? Somebody said, I think it was Bridget Fetzi said the other day, has anybody received their plague check yet? She's a comic. She's funny. I understand. I see it. You see it. I talk to people every day. I talk to business owners. I talk to sponsors who are struggling. They don't know when. And that uncertainty, like everything else, the uncertainty with the virus, the uncertainty with the economy, the uncertainty with money, paycheck, what your landlord going to do, how long can these banks and everybody continue to print money and help us out? That's scary.
We've got to be smart about how we do it. The president is shortly going to appoint a task force to talk about how we do it. But Austria is opening its economy. Denmark, Germany is starting to open its economy back up. And we've got to start talking about how to do that here.
Yeah. And we're going to do it inch by inch. But as I've said earlier, and I continue to say, when we commit, are we going full-blooded? And I don't mean overnight, everybody's back to normal. I mean, once we start the process, knowing that we probably won't have a vaccine, and also knowing that we may not have a for certain treatment. Do we head back in the minute there is a little spike or a hot spot somewhere? Because I don't know if we can do that. Let me ask you guys this. Could you stand a start-stop? If you started working, started moving along, and then you stopped, and then you started working, and you started moving along, and you stopped? I don't think many businesses could handle that. I don't know if the economy can. And then on top of all of that, you've got the psyche of the American people who are going to be nervous. Why would they go spend money, even if they're making money, until they know for certain that this isn't going to happen again tomorrow? So they'll start stocking away. They won't be spending. They'll change their habits. You're also going to have businesses that are laying off hundreds of thousands of people across the country who are going to bring some back, but not all. They're learning to do more with less. And that's something that's real. The thought process of flipping a switch, while it sounds great, it's not real. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me and text your program right now. I know, Chad, that sounds depressing. Well, it sucks. I mean, I give you a real way I see it, the studies, the things I'm looking at. I understand that it sucks. We all do. Here's the beauty, though, of the time that we live in. A, how fast we're taking on the virus is incredible. Technology, coupled with science, technology, smashing together, creating amazing things, working at light speed to get this thing handled. Secondly, there'll be more millionaires, billionaires, and ingenuity coming out of this than any time probably in our history. We work with a lot of VCs, that's venture capital companies, my uncle and I and our company. And they're like looking everywhere. What's the thing that's coming out of this that we can use that we know will find solutions and help people? Because so many people have those ideas and opportunities. And you go back and look at the Great Depression. You go back and look at the Great Recession. How many millionaires and billionaires were born out of that? Because they came up with ideas and boom, away it went. And you're able to do things now at home in ways that we've never been able to. So that's a big thing too. It's going to be a shifting in our economy in a different way. But good will come out of this. Absolutely. But it is going to take a bit. 323-538-2423 is your text line. You can text me directly at Chad Benson Show, Twitter and Instagram as well. So get Raycons, right? Earbuds. Chad, what about you? Why didn't you? How many of you are working out of the house? My son's teacher has these awful, I said, Jack, we're going to get her some Raycons. She's got these awful like earbuds and they fall out. They're not, and they're like, it's not even earbuds. It's just a little, they're earphones. And it's just, I said, we'll get her some Raycons. I can't hear. They fall out all the time. Raycons are the best earbuds around. And if you're at home right now, maybe you just want peace and quiet. Maybe you're doing conference calls and video chatting. You want to be able to hear. You got the kids in the background. Get the E25s from Raycons. Start well under $100. That's half the price of any of these other premium things out there, these earbuds that the sound quality isn't good. You get 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, better design, compact in such a way that you get a nice noise isolating fit. And I'm going to save you some more money right now as well. Go to buyraycon.com/Chad, buyraycon.com/Chad. When you do, you save 15% on top of everything else. Buyraycon.com/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show, where we reach across the aisle and occasionally poke someone in the eye.
You can expect a new Saturday Night Live this weekend. NBC says the sketch show will return with original content April 11th, but no real details on what that means. Will there be a host, a musical guest, sketches? A weekend update segment is likely, but otherwise the shape of the show is unclear.
What? But it's new, and it's fresh, and we'll take it, because that's what we're looking for. New and fresh, and something that takes your mind off all the insanity and craziness. And then you're sitting around and you're snacking and you say, you know what would be great? Chicken wings. Oh, they're probably already sold out of chicken wings for everything else that's gone. Well, hold on a second.
I ain't nothing but a chicken wing. There's a massive surplus of chicken wings in the U.S., and it can be traced to one event, March Madness. The NCAA basketball tournament is one of the top wing-eating times of the year, and when the tournament was canceled, demand dropped. And the extra supply has led to a price drop to about $1 per pound, a number not seen since 2011. And chicken wings-based restaurants like Buffalo Wild Wings, Hooters, and Wingstop, to name a few, are either closed completely or limited to takeout only.
Yeah. So I bought a bunch of chicken wings because I give them to the lizards. But not hard to make. They taste delicious. And it's funny that they talked about demand. There's a reason that there's not a lot of toilet paper out there. And it's not because the world is coming to an end and all of this stuff. It's because we've changed our habits. And much like March Madness, they kind of look at models to figure this stuff out on what's a busy time, what's not a busy time.
Product like toilet paper with a demand that's that predictable. The reality is we produce it just in time. We don't have any backup inventory throughout the whole channel. And the machines making it pretty much run 24/7, almost 365 a year already. When you put this across the entire country at once, just a small greater need everywhere with nobody being in the position of going, yeah, we're fine, take some of ours. That creates a very big stress on the country.
Yeah. And so people run, and plus people are at home, right? And they have two kinds of toilet paper. You have the cheap kind you get at work, and then the good ones you have at home, and they're two separate things. There's an abundance of the cheap, but at home, because everybody's at home now, they didn't plan for a pandemic.
It's going to be available, more plentiful very soon, but is it going to be constantly full shelves the way it was before? We're probably not going to get back to that until we get most of the country back to work, but there'll be plenty for everybody.
Plenty for everybody. So don't worry, not going to have to freak out about it. You're home more. What do? You probably go to the bathroom more at home. During the day, you're at work, and you go to the bathroom there. See? Crazy, right? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. You can text the program as well. Have a safe Easter. We are going to get through this. We're going to come out the other side shining. It is not going to be easy, and it's going to be a bit of a slog, but you could choose to be happy or you could choose to be miserable. I choose to be happy. Look for ways that you can make yourself happy. Most importantly, get outside, smile a little bit, laugh a little bit, and be kind to each other. Have a good, safe weekend in Easter. We'll do it again on Monday. Night, Jack.
This is the Chad Benson Show.